BBC, inspiring Uganda.
It was on this day, 61 years ago, when the Union Jack was put down and the Uganda flag was raised. And since that day, black, yellow, and red, and a crested crane in the middle have defined us. Good morning, Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning Uganda. Today is a special day in our country because we celebrate 61 years as an independent country. Now, we have had a lot we've gone through as a country, politically, economically, and even socially. But today, we are going to celebrate being independent. Today, we are going to celebrate being a republic rather than a protectorate. We've come a long way and we are happy, and I hope that you're happy that you're independent today. So are you feeling independent today? That's the big question. We have seen our country go through so many years of turmoil, and then peace, and then happiness, and then insecurity, and then happiness again. And here we are today with the National Resistance Movement government steering us ahead and, taking us to a destination. It's a country. We can't say final destination because final destination would mean an apocalypse where we'd all have to go. We are here and we are happy and we are developing steadily as a country. I am joined by Chantal Oliver Candida and Robert Chirabonyo. Joram Paul is not able to join us this morning, but he's here in spirit. Good morning, Chirabo.
A lovely morning to you. I'm just trying to figure out on the day that was 1962, the 9th of October, which happens to be today, as the Union Jack was going down and a beautiful Ugandan flag being raised for the first time, and then later Dr. Milton Apollo receiving the instruments of power. But when you watch that clip where there is a point where he swears allegiance to the Queen and the predecessors of the throne, so that's gaining independence. Then, as you read out, you swear allegiance to the king and the
Queen.
And to the Queen, actually.
To the Queen at the time, yes. Yes.
Of that throne. The big question is, did we get independence? If yes, are we independent?
Do we feel independent this morning? Good morning, Chantal Oliver Akandinda.
Good morning, Olive. How are you doing?
I'm great. I am feeling independent today. Is
it? Well, as an individual, you can feel independent, but of course, there is a number of ways you can question the independence, yes. Especially with what Cheryl has talked about. And I think personally, I would think we are still grappling with a little bit of neo-colonialism. And we need to get that in check. But happy independence to all Ugandans. And we are looking forward to, growing in independence every single time. Much as we're trying to change our mindsets and change the way some of our leaders think, some of our families think, I believe we're headed in the right direction and things are going to be changing progressively.
Well, we are always told that from independence, we had Sir Edward Mutesa as the first president, then we had Milton Obote, we had the likes of Edward Binayisa, Yusuf Lule, Tito Kero, then we had with Obote too, we had, and finally we get to Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Now, many people say that it is until 1986 that Uganda started moving on the right path. Just after independence, you see how governments were being overthrown now and then. So there's so much that we wasted there. And we just hope and believe that the steady progress, we shall live to see it continue. Yes, we move away from so that we can recover the many years
that we lost. Yes, but I'd like to call on Ugandans, for a moment, and put this forward. Let's, much as we are still under the British monarch and trying to copy a few things here and there, let's be mindful of the things we copy from these Western countries. You are allowed to copy in terms of technology if you're benchmarking for the better of the country, but please don't let yourself be brainwashed brainwashed by some of the things that are being said and done by some of these countries. Plus, I feel like we have lost our culture to a certain extent.
That we have, and it saddens me because it's mainly us in Africa, and I'll even narrow it down back home here, because today we have forgotten many of our norms, many of the things that make us unique, like our cultures, norms, and the belief system that we used to have. Today, if you mention anything that is related to our African traditions, you either backward or you're a pagan or an atheist, because you do not believe in a certain kind of belief system that was introduced, of course, by the people that you used to, lead our country before we got independence. But anyway, we will be delving into that and more later on the agenda, but our main focus will be on the evolution of the Anglican Church since independence. And later on our news bill, we will still have a discussion on promiscuity among the youth. The clergy are worried, and as a parent, I'm also worried. So stay tuned. We have so much lined up for you, but for now, we will be delving into the local news stories.
Well, we'll begin with His Excellency at the National Prayer Breakfast that was held yesterday, where President Museveni initiated an act held in Kampala. He appealed to leaders to avoid sectarianism, but rather on the service that one is able to deliver. The address focused on the importance of prayer, being truthful, and following the right gospel of Jesus Christ. The address that was aired live on all radio and TV stations attracted ministers, members of parliament, and guests from across the globe. Moving on, the government, through the Microfinance Support Center, is to give an extra 20 million shillings to excelling Emyoga groups and saving and credit cooperative organizations circles across the country. According to the State Minister for Microfinance, Aruna Cheyune Kasoro, these additional funds are meant to boost the seed capital for the beneficiaries. Kasoro said that he has been directed by the President to give out additional funds to groups that have excelled in the program. He made the remarks during the monitoring and member education meeting on the Presidential Initiative on Wealth and Job Creation and Parish Development Model Program in Kataku District in Eastern Uganda. The three-day consultative meeting, Baraza, were organized by Kataku District leadership, led by the Vice President Jessica Alupo, who doubles as the area woman member of Parliament. They are being held in 3 counties, including Toroma, Ngairama, and Usuku. They are facilitated by the experts from the Ministry of Finance and the Uganda Microfinance Support Center.
And in more news, the former Inspector General of the Uganda Police, General Kale Kaihura, has conveyed his deep appreciation for the affection shown by the Bafumbira community to him while in court. He made this heartfelt statement at the Shaza Playground during a ceremony of Thanksgiving led by interreligious leaders in Chisoro District. Kaihura said he has never encountered a group of people who have shown him such firm love as the Bafumbira have. General Kaihura revealed that a significant turning point in his life came after meeting with the Pope, and he now considers himself a devoted servant of the National Resistance Army. He emphasized that love is a powerful weapon that can bring about positive change. The Bishop of the Muhabura Diocese, Godfrey Mbise, encouraged the people of Chisoro to continue loving one another, emphasizing the importance of prioritizing love over material possessions. And lastly, on the local scene, Health Minister Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng has deferred the distribution of over 3,000 devices meant for the persons with disabilities living in Lira. Acheng said the suspension was due to the unclear distribution method, which she feared would not have reached the right beneficiaries. She directed that the beneficiaries be identified by the local authorities and the handover be done in a public space in 3 weeks. Health Minister Dr. Jenruth Acheng has temporarily frozen the distribution of assistive devices meant for persons with disabilities in Lira, citing irregularities in the previous distributions where some intended beneficiaries missed out while others demanded sums of money. She directed that a list of beneficiaries be generated and the distribution done in public for transparency. A total of 3,707 devices donated by USAID Relab HS were handed over to Lira District and Lira City to extend rehabilitation services to the last mile. The devices include clutches, white canes, tripod, walking frames, toilets and shower chairs with their spare parts.
Crossing over to the international scene, we are starting from Israel now. We do have a report that comes in of at least 250,000 reported to have been killed by the Hamas terrorists at a rave party in Israel's Negev desert, according to a volunteer group for disaster victims. Now, please do note that news keep emerging every single minute of the increase in numbers. Now, a spokesperson from Zakar, which collects human remains after terror attacks and other disasters, made the announcement as parents of those who attended the site near Kibbutz Riem were desperately awaiting news of their missing children. Hundreds of revelers have been partying all night and were entering the dawn chill-out phase when armed Hamas terrorists landed in motorized paragliders and began shooting or kidnapping anyone in their path. Following the rampage, which began at around 7 a.m. on Saturday, dozens of partygoers were reported to have been killed or kidnapped, with many others still missing. Then in Afghanistan, emergency teams are racing to rescue people from the rubble left by a powerful earthquake that struck the west of the country. More than 1,000 people are feared dead after the 6.3 magnitude quake hit villages in Herat province on Saturday. With communications down and many roads blocked, rescue workers are struggling to reach the remote areas. Hundreds have also been injured. The UN and other organizations have begun to rush in emergency supplies. The earthquake struck about 40 kilometers, that is 25 miles, northwest of the city of Herat at around 11 local time on Saturday. The worst affected communities consist of mud structures. In the very first shake, all houses collapsed. Herat resident Bashir Ahmed, whose family lives in one of the villages, told a news agency. And in Mali, people living in cities under siege by Al-Qaeda-linked militants have told news agencies they are facing shortages of food, fuel and medicine and rapidly rising prices. The blockades have come as the fighting intensifies between the army, who are backed by Russian Wagner mercenaries, and both Islamist groups and ethnic Tuareg separatist fighters. For nearly 2 months, Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslimin has been trying to completely cut off the historic northern city of Timbuktu, preventing supplies from getting in. Dozens of trucks loaded with food and goods used to arrive daily in the city, but now, after the siege, nothing comes, said Omar Sidi Muhammad, who lives in the city and works as a journalist. Most of the supplies used to come to Timbuktu from Mauritania and Algeria. And matters climate. 8 years after issuing his first encyclical on the environment, Pope Francis is back with another apostolic exhortation, with one more directly focused on climate change. The new encyclical, which addressed to all people of goodwill on the climate crisis, takes those who deny the reality of climate change to task, while exhorting both individuals and world leaders to hasten the transition to a more sustainable economy before before irreparable damage is done to the world. I ask everyone to accompany this pilgrimage of reconciliation with a world that is our home and to help make it more beautiful, because that commitment has to do with our personal dignity and highest values, Pope Francis wrote. At the same time, I cannot deny that it is necessary to be honest and recognize that the most effective solutions will not come from individual efforts alone, but above all from major political decisions on the national and international level. That is it for climate news and also what is happening on the international scene.
Well, still, Uganda celebrates 61 years of independence, and earlier we asked if you are feeling independent, and of course my colleagues here had different views regarding that. I personally feel independent, and I feel that our nation is independent. We will be now delving into the press review for this morning.
With me is a copy of the New Vision, and at the front page I am seeing LC Elections Roadmap Out. Tentative plan outlines activities to be conducted. That is on page 10 now. Museveni's ingredients to keep Uganda independent. You'll find the full story in today's copy of the New Vision. And also over 100 pages of independence special inside today's copy of the New Vision. Curriculum, you'll find Senior 2 Chemistry and Senior 3 Mathematics and Physics in today's copy. And then President warns against politics, religion of identity. And lastly, when you speak matters health, foods that can enhance your sleep in case you're having such a struggle, that and more is what is happening, and you'll get that and more in today's copy of the New Vision.
We will be taking a short break right about now, and we'll leave you with an inspiration song. Also, our team is already in Kitgum district. They will be bringing you live updates of the celebrations of Uganda's independence today. So stay tuned to UBC.
Well, as an individual, you can feel independent, but of course there is a number of ways you can question the independence,
yes,
especially with what Cheryl has talked about. And I think personally, I would think we are still grappling with a little bit of neo-colonialism, and we need to get that in check. But happy independence to all Ugandans, and we are looking forward to, you know, growing in independence every single time. As much as we are trying to change our mindsets and change the way some of our leaders think, some of our families think, I believe we're headed the right direction and things are going to be changing progressively.
Well, we are always told that from independence, we had Sir Edward Mutesa as the first president, then we had Milton Obote, we had the likes of Edward Binayisa, Yusuf Lule, Tito Kero, then we had with us Obote too, we had and finally we get to Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Now, many people say that it is until 1986 that Uganda started moving on the right path. Just after independence, you see how governments were being overthrown now and then. So there's so much that we wasted there. And we just hope and believe that the steady progress, we shall live to see it continue. Yes, to move away from, so that we can recover the many years
that we lost. Yes, but I'd like to call on Ugandans, for a moment, and put this forward. Let's, much as we are still under the British monarch and trying to copy a few things here and there, let's be mindful of the things we copy from these Western countries. You are allowed to copy in terms of technology if you're benchmarking for the better of the country, but please don't let yourself be brainwashed by some of the things that are being said and done by some of these countries. Plus, I feel like we have lost our culture to a certain extent.
That we have, and it saddens me because it's mainly us in Africa, and I'll even narrow it down back home here, because today we have forgotten many of our norms, many of the things that make us unique, like our cultures, norms, and the belief system that we used to have. Today, if you mention anything that is related to our African traditions, you either backward or you're a pagan or an atheist. it because you do not believe in a certain kind of belief system that was introduced, of course, by the people that you used to, lead our country before we got independence. But anyway, we will be delving into that and more later on the agenda. But our main focus will be on the evolution of the Anglican Church since independence. And later on our news bill, we will still have a discussion on promiscuity among the youth. The clergy are worried, and as a parent, I'm also worried. So stay tuned. We have so much lined up for you. But for now, we will be delving into the local news stories.
Well, we'll begin with His Excellency at the National Prayer Breakfast that was held yesterday, where President Museveni initiated an act held in Kampala. He appealed to leaders to avoid sectarianism, but rather on the service that one is able to deliver. The address focused on the importance of prayer, being truthful, and following the right gospel of Jesus Christ. The address that was aired live on all radio and TV stations attracted ministers, members of parliament, and guests from across the globe. Moving on, the government, through the Microfinance Support Center, is to give an extra 20 million shillings to excelling emyoga groups and saving and credit cooperative organizations circles across the country. According to the State Minister for Microfinance, Haruna Cheyune Kasoro, these additional funds are meant to boost the seed capital for the beneficiaries. Kasoro said that he has been directed by the President to give out additional funds to groups that have excelled in the program. He made the remarks during the monitoring and member education meeting on the Presidential Initiative on Wealth and Job Creation and Parish Development Model Program in Kataku District in Eastern Uganda. The three-day consultative meeting, Baraza, were organized by Kataku District leadership, led by the Vice President Jessica Alupo, who doubles as the area woman member of Parliament. They are being held in 3 counties, including Toroma, Ngairama, and Usuku. They are facilitated by the experts from the Ministry of Finance and the Uganda Microfinance Support Center.
And in more news, the former Inspector General of the Uganda Police, General Kale Kaihura, has conveyed his deep appreciation for the affection shown by the Bafumbira community to him while in court. He made this heartfelt statement at the Shaza Playground during a ceremony of Thanksgiving led by interreligious leaders in Chisoro district. Kaihura said he has never encountered a group of people who have shown him such firm love as the Bafumbira have. General Kaihura revealed that a significant turning point in his life came after meeting with the Pope, and he now considers himself a devoted servant of the National Resistance Army. He emphasized that love is a powerful weapon that can bring about positive change. The Bishop of the Muhabura Diocese, Godfrey Mbise, encouraged the people of Chisoro to continue loving one another, emphasizing the importance of prioritizing love over material possessions. And lastly, on the local scene, Health Minister Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng has deferred the distribution of over 3,000 devices meant for the persons with disabilities living in Lira. Acheng said the suspension was Happy Independence, Uganda. Good morning. This is Good Morning, Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I am joined by Chirabo Robert Nyonyintono. He has names that are really rich in culture and whatnot. And of course, I'm joined by Chantal Olive Kandinda. Good morning. Thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning, Uganda, and of course, UBC. Now, Uganda is 61 years old today, and UBC is also now 60 years. yesterday. So we are here celebrating birthdays upon birthdays of our nation and of our station. And if you didn't know, this is the station that used to be called Uganda Television. We have evolved for sure, because we've come from broadcasting at 6 p.m. to midnight to now having shows like Good Morning Uganda every single morning from Monday to Friday. If that is not a big feat, I don't know what you think it is. But for me, I believe that as a country, we've come a long way, and including having programs like this where we get to talk about matters of national importance. Now, the West Ankole Diocese Bishop, that is Reverend Johnson Twino Mujuni, has decried the rate at which promiscuity and pornography are destroying the lives of young people, especially learners. And the Reverend said that it has gone to a high level. The levels of promiscuity and pornography are high to the extent that men are attracted to men and women are marrying fellow women, and people are getting married to animals because the sexuality that God gave us has gone away through pornography. And that's why we are here today. The youth are the most culprits here today. If you have a phone and you subscribe to apps like TikTok, I'm sure you're no stranger to promiscuity that is being shared on in broad daylight by the youth. The content you see on our social media today honestly leaves a lot to be desired, and for me it sometimes leaves a sour taste in my mouth. But I believe that I am not alone. Religious leaders have spoken about this over time, parents have spoken about this over time, and today we are here to ask the question, how do we curb the levels of promiscuity and pornography among the youth in our country? And of course, I will start with Robert.
Well, thank you so much. This is a very important topic. You know, one would say we are having independence, we are going to have a live broadcast, we are going to talk about that in the next hour. But there are those small things that destroy a nation that most of the times we don't give attention to. And I'm glad that at 61 years we've chosen to give attention to this. You know, one thing we always forget is we may live and die and go, but there's a generation that is coming after us.
Yes.
A country when immorality, when pornography, when a country is eaten and the moral fabric is totally destroyed, brothers and sisters, I must be very honest with you. Even from the religious perspective, that country is doomed to danger. You may have development, you may have the infrastructure, you know, but if you lose your moral fabric, if a country loses its stand in the godly status, it is gone. Today we are talking about the West. There are countries, when you listen to their national anthems, when you look at their motto, I don't want to point particular countries, but when you sit back and see what is happening, you may believe that the hand of God shifted from those nations. Men are marrying women, women are marrying women, pornography has become the order of the day. They've even lost their biological abilities because of pornography. Now, Uganda, this is a country first and foremost founded on godly principles. Today we are celebrating 61 years of independence. No matter being among the Commonwealth countries, that is a story for another day, and proud to say we are countries that were formerly colonized by the British, and we gather and jubilate. But on the eve of independence, we had our national anthem. When you listen to all the stanzas, for example, stanza number 1, "O Uganda, may God uphold thee. We lay our future in thy hands." Our forefathers, the founders of this nation, our national anthem, because many composed, but that's what we took. Uganda was put in the hands of God. When you look at our motto, for God and my country, no matter how that we've shifted along the 61 years, but still That is what this country is. So when religious leaders look at these critical things and they're not focusing on which party, who was denied entry, who was brought how, and they're talking about something regarding our morals. It is something we must look at. Because you cannot have a proper political system when the moral fabric of a country is destroyed. That is why you cannot have that when you're going to wake up. Just imagine if on about paper you have a chirabo man. Those who understand what I'm saying. And someone can rightly come up and say, for me, I'm maybe gay. And you're led by such a person. Just imagine how our young generation, today we are talking about new cases of HIV/AIDS. Just imagine if the West said we can no longer be able to fund, because 90% of the HIV budget in this country comes from the West.
That's
and then
true.
you have a high rate of infections as a result of pornography, promiscuity. What is going to happen is you may have these buildings, but if many are down and they cannot access treatment, then we are going to go back in the 1986, 89, when we had just had the first HIV case there in Masaka, that landing site, Kasensero, how people were dying. So these are fundamental principles that we must look at as a country and see how we find a way forward.
Now, in as much as I hear what you're saying, there is someone out there who may be wondering, how did we get here? Because as a country, we've had our norms and values, and we had a strong moral fabric, but now it is threadbare. What led us here? Because it has to be something that we let go, whether the parents or the entire country, like government and everything. How did we get here?
Well, there is very many reasons that we can point out that could have led us to this very point. But just to give someone a clear meaning of what promiscuity means, this is having or involving in many sexual relations, or having a number of sexual partners. And if the clerics are coming out to say something about in the youth, now the youth we are talking about from 20 to 35 years.
Yes.
And that's the bracket that the clerics are talking about. When you sit down to assess people in that group, the youth, you realize that we have so much time on social media, and social media has everything, the good and the bad. But also, the generation that has the 20 to 35 right now, take a look back at their families and how they were raised. You'll most probably find that those were parents who never had the time to sit down with their kids, because they were, fast forward, trying to get money every now and then to make sure that these kids go to school and attain the best level of education. So what am I trying to say? There is a number of factors that have led us to this point. But when you go back, it starts back with family.
It starts at home.
And then now grows into social media and how we are misusing it. And that is the absolute truth. In 2017, the late Father Lokodo came out and put forward some of this information. A committee was put in place, about 20 billion Uganda shillings also put in place, and this money was meant to assist fight pornography in the country. This money was meant to assist the committee put activities in place that were meant to fight pornography. The unfortunate bit is that we've not seen much of that materialize to see the changes that we are looking for. So I believe, much as we have committees that can be put in place, individuals, families, we need to go back and revise how we are running our families, so that we are able to produce, if I may put it like this, good products that we put to the world.
And when you talk about social media, a case in point here is TikTok. I've seen a lot of promiscuity by Ugandan youth on TikTok. But someone says that if you look at data and research, it shows that in China, TikTok is actually used for development. The youth are encouraged to use TikTok to advance themselves and their skill set. Why is it that our youth are not encouraged to do the same.
Let me give you what TikTok does. There is something they call an algorithm, and that is what is used. See, that particular app is controlled by China.
Yes.
They control what content you have access to when you are in China, and control what content you have access to in another part of the world. And that is why social media is killing us a lot, because most of those applications use what you call that algorithm that gives you, if you have noticed, even just Instagram, the more stories you open and watch for longer and like or share with someone,
is the
you'll be
content they
receiving
give
more,
you.
yes. You'll be receiving the same content or content related to the same. And that is what is happening even here. First, they give you access to all information, what to pay attention to. Please do note that whether we accept or not, people will give some good amount of attention to things to do with sex, things to do with dancing, things to do, and the more you pay attention, the more you're given that, the more you're given access to all that. And that is how we end up having only people dancing and shaking whatever they're shaking on TikTok.
And there is good content on TikTok, because
Yes.
I also use the app, and I've found that, let's say, in the world of marketing and in media, there is so much good content there. But like Chantal said, you have to be intentional. And actually, it is said that among the youth, TikTok has become the main search engine rather than Google. Instead of going to Google to search for something, they go to TikTok to search for certain, information, because here it comes to them in video form. Because it is also said that the youth today do not want to read, and they have a very low span of attention. So they would prefer apps like that. Now, because of apps like that, I'm going back to the old man on Good Morning Uganda. By the way, someone has sent you greetings and said, greetings to Chirabo, the old man of Good Morning Uganda. And that is out of respect.
The wise man.
The wise man
The
of
wise
the...
man. When I was growing up, there was this, I always forget his name, but he had a column in the New Vision, and this man inspired me so much to be a journalist.
The old folks?
The old folks, I would save at least pocket money. Of course, it was a bit funny, his love stories and all that, but during my senior four, I devote passion. No wonder newspaper, whatever I got a D, but
Anyway, my question was to you. Yes, we know that these apps are being detrimental to our youth, but then they're also being developmental to the youth out there in other countries like China. So how can we, as a country, or how can Uganda's government ensure that the youth use these platforms for the better good, for their better good?
Well, first I must say that social media is a painful joy to many African countries. It is a joy that if used very well. And I want to tell you, I don't want to put all the youths in one bag and say they have all misused social media. We have many youths that are making good of social media. Here in Uganda, their various works have gotten to be known. They have participated in international contests and been able to win. You know, there's this youth that won the science something over an alarm system and all that. I first saw these young boys on TikTok, and they went places and they won a whole international award, though they weren't seriously recognized by Uganda. And I felt somehow, but why am I calling it a painful joy? That a big portion then has not benefited from most of these social media apps. Now, I don't want us to act like an ostrich that hides its head in the soil and leaves the rest
Of the body out.
These apps we are talking about are not only in Uganda. Let's look at countries that have chosen to uphold the moral fabric of their citizens. Fellow Ugandans, let's not run away from facts and act as if we have a veil on our faces, because Uganda is going to be even after us. In the next 50 years, nobody above 30 watching us may be around. You know, we may be gone, but there could be and they will be. Much as believe in Revelation and Jesus is coming back, but there could be and there will be Uganda and people in it. Now, this is a crave to save the next generation. A generation where young children on social media, where the youth can have group whatever, you know, where a country in parliament can discuss a festival that happens in Ginger and says, you people, the last time we saw tents shaking at midnight, shaking, like there was an earthquake.
But you see, Robert,
but this was a next gen. So what am I saying? As a nation, we need to agree that this is an area we must give special interest. China, you've talked about China. Leave alone child bringing, but countries sit and decide. Israel, today, yes, it's Palestine, but they choose. Go to North Korea. We might say this is dictatorship or hard hand. I can mention a list. Even our neighbors, there is a country in the East African community that is excelling so much in ICT that even in their education system, almost every child has a tab. Just our neighbors here. Chantal knows that very well. Almost every child has a tab. They're exposed to internet than any other country within the East African community.
They even have internet zones.
But in that country,
They regulate.
they regulate.
They
Yes.
regulate.
There are things you can't see. There are sites you can't go to. Because that particular country, just like China, you know, we sit here and praise China. For them, the youth are on this.
Do you know that
But-
WhatsApp is not even allowed in China? It was
It's-
censored since 2017.
It's not allowed, but they also have their own, because
WeChat, yes.
they have their own chatting apps.
Yes,
so
but
it
they
is
control.
mainly they control. It is
Yes.
faster. Yes,
Go
that's
to
the
Saudi
point.
Arabia. We can mention and the list
Okay,
is
now
endless.
Robert, now that you're mentioning all that, it seems like where we are lacking is regulation.
Regulation.
How best can we, because someone out there may be wondering, why are they over talking about social media? But actually today, like Chantal said, when you look at the problem we have of pornography, where do you find pornography? Social media. You find it on the internet. Where do you find the most insane attributes of promiscuity? You're going to find it on Twitter. You're going to find it on TikTok. You're going to find it shared in WhatsApp groups. You're going to find it on Facebook. Okay, Facebook tries to control to a degree, and Instagram, but still, this is all on social media where people are almost naked, sometimes real naked, and this is content that is being shared and reshared. Now, you're a parent out there, you have a teenager, they have a gadget. Do you know for sure what they are watching? Do you know what their friends are sharing? Do we even have parents that go an extra mile to ensure that they control the content that their children watch, whether on TV, whether it is on Netflix, whether it is on YouTube? So, since we see that the problem is regulation, how best can we help our youth?
Well,
Chantal.
You see, I want to take this back down to society. I usually, when I'm talking to people, I talk about the theory of a lie. Now, the more a lie is told, the more believable it sounds and the more acceptable it becomes. And this is what has happened. We are very unbothered, for lack of a better way to put it. I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to find this 16-year-old dressed the way she wants, and it's none of my business. And I will walk away. I'm going to go on social media, see the recent videos that were making rounds of Nampeda. Oh, then we'll laugh about it. And then if I'm someone who is unbothered, I'll be like, oh, don't play it.
musician will even have a song about that.
Thank you. And I'll really be unbothered. I'll just leave it at that. I mean, my family is okay, or I'm putting food on the table, I'm taking kids to school, and I'm not doing badly, and I will leave it to that. How many times have we seen society come out to actually fight these things? Now, back then, if a girl gets pregnant on the village, first of all the girls in the village will be abused. That is one. Two, society will, the community is going to sit to fix that problem. because it was a communal problem.
Of
because
course, the way the problem
Should
used to
even
be
a societal
fixed.
region.
Thank you. But right now, like I said, we are very unbothered as a society, as communities. We don't want to know. And I'm using English because in Uganda or other language, the Twagara, Kumanya, all those words we use. But we are not realizing that much as you're doing so much as a parent to keep your child in check, there's a parent out there who's very unbothered. There's a kid out there who has no parents, and they're raising themselves. They're not going to get the right kind of guidance. They're not going to get the right kind of information. They're going to consume everything that comes their way. So we have to stop being selfish and get back to handling things as societies, as families, as communities. That is the first line. Because if I know, back then, if you guys had a chance to go to the well or fetch water from the well, those that had the chance to, if you delay at the well or they find you playing at the well, a neighbor will tell you, go home. Not your parent,
yes,
not related to you, but they will chase you and tell you, go home.
Because it took a village back then to raise a child.
Let's get back down to the villages raising the children.
But with the level of modernity that we have, to an extent that you live in a neighborhood and you can stay there for 2 to 3 years when you don't even know your next door neighbor.
That's what I'm saying. We go back to the root.
So how do we do that?
Well,
how do we get parents to actually go back to that? Because now with modernity, we've embraced individuality. And also today, the other day we were having a conversation and I mentioned that research says that the level of infertility is high, especially among men today. So you're going to find that people go through so much to have children. They talk about the expense of IVF, talk about miscarriages. Ladies today are battling fibroids, endometriosis. So getting pregnant is becoming more and more hard. Now, when they have these children, it's like they are too thankful to have children that they take off control. No one is guiding the children because the parents are just too thankful that now they have a child. A child is going to be punished at school rightfully, and the parent will walk into the school and say, how dare you beat my child? You see what we are grappling with?
Yes, yes.
So with all of this in mind, I still find that we are going to have difficulty. But Chirabo, you're burning to say something.
Well, first, I think if we agree to get in our right senses, we've invested so much from the life and the choices we've taken, first as society. You talked about being in a fence and a neighbor in a fence, and you're not bothered. I am a community leader, and I have seen how this has affected people. We need to understand that, first and foremost, these things catch up with us. I began by saying, you will live and die, but there's a generation. If we are visionary and we want a Uganda after us to be better, I want to tell you some of the challenges we are having even today are because of what we think is minor. You know, society. Today it is very okay to see young girls. You know, I know of areas where as you drive out of your gate, there's a group of young women dressed half naked on your fence. And they are lining up for men to come and someone says, I'm not bothered.
Would like for you to share your views on this very discussion, and that we are asking you to share your views on how Uganda can curb promiscuity and pornography among the youth. You can reach us on WhatsApp number 0709602592, and on the X app, the hashtag is UBCGMU. Again, we are asking you to share your opinions, your questions, your views, and anything that you have on your mind regarding this topic, and it is on how Uganda can curb the level of promiscuity and pornography among the youth. Chirabo, you were saying something.
We are celebrating 61 years.
Yes.
But these are the challenges that they seem little, but if not given priority. I liked what my sister said. Let's begin as a society. Because it is through society, looking at this critically, that Parliament can see a lot through.
So even parents have to light a torch into
society
themselves.
Talk about parents, everybody, because we need a clear law. First and foremost, we need a law. Then we need enforcement. because we've set a long precedent that someone can go on social media, say anything. I mean,
someone can go on social media.
Show a lot of young girls having that nonsensical fun. And
it goes beyond Chirabo.
Their nudes.
It goes beyond. Last weekend, I saw things that left me wondering, who are these children's parents?
Recently, I saw a party of some Ugandan celebrity in some country called over Dubai. Don Idiot, somewhere like that. Well, I've forgotten the name.
Oh, wow.
Almost dressed half naked. And trending everywhere. Come and see. Society excited and happy. Kanoke njagala. If you don't, and if you see, we've let the abnormal be normal. And when the abnormal becomes normal, the normal become abnormal. You get it?
Actually,
so
today
now,
you're more weird. You're more weird for dressing modestly than dressing almost naked. So like if a young woman decides to cover up, her friends are going to say she's boring.
What is wrong with that? So
she's not modern.
When society wakes up and we condemn this, Parliament will pass a law. I've just given an example when we had Parliament discuss some festival. But because society has taken a direction, parliamentarians failed to see that through. You know, we said the money coming in this community, the how, and money. And the thing, and whatever happened, those that were able. So, society push for legislation that has enforcement. What the countries we are talking about, how they have managed that in this era of development, in this era of technology, because they have set precedents.
Right.
I remember in one of those countries, I think there was a lady that won a contest or something like that. Then she came dressed skimpily, and she got a jail sentence.
I remember that.
She got a jail sentence.
Yes, that was in Rwanda.
Yes.
And none of those girls there. They rather get buses and come over the weekend.
And do their nonsense from...
But then again...
Chantal, before you come in, I would like to share a few comments, and then we'll get back to that. As most people are saying, it's a great discussion, and it is timely. Now, this one says, good morning, Olive, Chantal, and Uncle Bob. Rampant pornography is due to the result of modernity and Western influence. This generation of so-called elites has exposed our moral decadence more than the ancient regimes. You find a primary student, pupil, with a smartphone. They are on all social media platforms that promote pornography. Schools brought these things of prom queens and kings that totally promote coupling in schools. Imagine. Secondly, as a country, we developed the I don't care attitude. Gone are the days where children were raised by both parents and societies, unlike today where societies have ignored children that don't belong to them. So they end up falling in such traps. Way forward is that we need to go back to our values as Africans and abandon this Western policy which drives us to homosexuality, incest, bestiality, among others. Secondly, raising up morally upright children should be a collective responsibility of both parents, schools, societies, among others. Lastly, this so-called privileged generation should be seriously regulated. Otherwise, we rather go back to the generation of our ancestors, which was characterized by illiteracy, over-drinking, really, polygamy, among others. But they had morals of life. Cricket, Derek Gagamel. Thank you so much for always being part of Good Morning Uganda. Today, you're really...
Bare knuckle.
Bare knuckles, yes. And now this one says, teach digital literacy and critical thinking skills to help youth evaluate the content they encounter online and recognize the unrealistic nature of much of pornography and promote the use of parental control software and filters to restrict access to explicit content on devices used by minors. And this one says, greetings UBC, I love the show. Meanwhile, the best to help the youth is to set a firm education system which targets all the areas of promoting controlled, effective learning on the upcoming youth. The current youth need awareness towards search engines on social media. Thank you so much. And he says this is a long-term run which the government has to intervene in, because misuse of internet is becoming a second nature to the the youth, which blinds them mentally towards being productive in different communities. This, he again says, he loves the show. Thank you so much. You did not leave your name. Please leave your names. We would like to know who we are speaking to. And this one says, good morning, UBC JMU. The government should enroll teenagers and the youth to learn about sexuality and sex education. Also, communities should discourage indecent dress code, indecent language, indecent shows, indecent online content. Also, communities should encourage get-togethers online. Online life has created a lot of loneliness among the youth that end up turning to porn and uncouth behavior. I have many views coming through. I will read some of them as we close, but I would like, Chantal, you had something to say before I read the comments, and that will be your parting shot.
Well, in that case, I'm just going to reiterate what I said. Let's get back down to raising raising these kids as a society, and let's go back to being bothered. Let's not be unbothered. Let's go back to being bothered by the things we see. However, you were talking about, Cherabo especially is talking about the dress code and everything. Look at these countries that are very well developed. Yes, there is a bit of regulation and everything, but if we center this on dress code alone, we are in trouble, because at the end of the day, it's our minds. If you see a woman dressed a certain way, the reason as to why you are affected is because you've put your mind to it. But imagine you ignored how she's dressed, and you see how we would not even survive.
I think dress code is just a small factor.
It's a reason that is used as a scapegoat.
Yes, but there is more. There is more. Please continue. No, let Chantal finish.
My parting shot is let's get back down to raising kids and being concerned as a whole, as a society, because that is the only way we're going to change these things. Also, let's have parental controls with these kids. The truth is, whether you have the time or not, give a kid a tab that has those controls, and don't give them access to a phone that you know doesn't have those controls. Start from the foundation.
It is actually said that most of the pornography young people consume is normally found on their parents' gadgets.
Yes. Keep those gadgets away from your kids. If you know some of you need those things, then please keep them away.
Chantal, Robert Cherabo, well, your parting shots in 30 seconds.
Touched a lot, and I don't want to. She's done it very well. But I just want to look at some small thing. This is people in the media today. The media is supposed to set the agenda and direction for a country. I think we've gone far below the belt. Look at some of the programs. We media personalities, I'm talking to fellow people in the media, the language we use, the programming we have today, you know, this privileged generation, and then you are Ugandan. Whatever content you're putting, at the back of your mind, think, what is the impact of what I'm doing? You have children, or you may have them at one time. So let's not bury this generation and the next generation.
Right. Well, thank you so much.
And shall feel the pain.
Thank you so much, Cherabo. This topic touches a really sensitive chord for many people, parents and guardians, and even people that just care about the culture and the norms in our country. I have so many views coming through, but unfortunately, I won't be able to share all of them because time is against us. Still, thank you so much, and this conversation continues online. The hashtag is UBCGMU. Now, I will end with one comment from Alleluia John, and he says, what benefit does Uganda get from porn sites? Does the government believe that such sites are a problem to society or not? The best way is to let such sites be blocked. And I believe that when he was still the Minister of Ethics and Integrity, the late Father Lokodo actually had this done. But people have found a backdoor. They have found alternative sites where they access the pornography and this promiscuity. So as a country, we have our work cut out for us, and we need to do our best to ensure that we save the coming generation. The content we put out there may affect how our future children may see us, and I don't think young people look at it this way. Right now, we have 2.8 million social media users in Uganda, and that is as of January January 2022. It could have gone higher. But how are you using your social media? Are you being developmental, or you're using it to be detrimental to your own future? These are things you need to ponder on as we move on. We will be coming back later on with GMU news review, and of course business, traffic updates, and later on agenda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Previously, in most of these areas that we prioritized, farmers would produce, but you don't access the market because the roads are not there. So you have the middlemen that would have access and they persevere to go into those different villages and they buy with their own prices. They will go there and set prices for you, and yet you're the ones who are producing this food. But now this time with the market linkages, people can now access the market because we have bridges that were streams that were bottlenecks to access by the farmers. Yet has constructed bridges, so farmers can now reach the market.
So, you are ready to invest in Airtel's initial public offering? Good choice. I'm going to show you how to do it straight from your phone. First, you're going to want to make sure you have a Securities Central Depository SCD account. Dial star 185 star 85 hash from your Airtel number. Choose Airtel IPO purchase from the available options. Enter your valid national identification number when prompted. Before you purchase, there are a few things you need to know. The minimum purchase is 2,500 shares. The share price is 100 Uganda shillings. Select the number of shares you wish to purchase. Choose your relevant broker for the purchase. Enter your Airtel Money PIN to confirm the transaction. Congratulations! You receive a confirmation message of your successful purchase.
Did you know that George Wilberforce Kakoma composed the music and authored the lyrics of the Uganda national anthem? Kakoma was born in 1923 in what is now Wakiso district, Uganda's Mengo Town Council. He attended Mengo Primary School, King's College Budo, Royal College of Music in London, University of Durham in London, England, among other institutions. Prior to Uganda's independence, a subcommittee was formed to determine an anthem for the forthcoming state. It proceeded to hold a nationwide contest with the criteria they stipulated for the anthem, being that it should be short, original, solemn, praising and looking forward to the future. In July 1962, the committee chose Kakoma's composition. It had taken him a day to compose the music and write the lyrics for O Uganda, Land of Beauty. Kakoma's composition was first played publicly by the police band conducted by Mr. Mon on October 9, 1962, during Uganda's Independence Day celebrations. He received a personal token of 2,000 Ugandan shillings from the Prime Minister, Dr. Milton Apollo Obote, for his work. Apart from the national anthem, he contributed to the composition of the East African Community Anthem in 2005 and also composed the Uganda Wildlife Authority Anthem. Kakoma died on 8th April 2012 in Kampala's Kololo suburb, aged 89.
Good morning, Uganda. Once again, thank you for staying with us. It's time for Good Morning Uganda Business, and my name is Chantal Olive Akandinda. Well, this morning, just to take you through the stories in business, members of parliament sitting on the Committee of Finance and Planning led by Honorable Amos Akatukunda or Amos Akatukunda of Rampara County have commended Uganda Revenue Authority for the good job they are doing at the different one-stop border posts in Uganda. Now, this has been revealed during their tour to Milama Hill and Katuna border, respectively. Members of Parliament sitting on the Committee of Finance and Planning have toured these one-stop border posts with the aim of accessing the challenges URA goes through to establish their performance. Honorable Amos Kankunda, the chairperson of this committee, has appreciated Uganda Revenue Authority for the working relationship with Rwanda Revenue Authority, which is helping in boosting the revenue. Victoria Nabitaka Makumbi, the Assistant Commissioner URA, has expressed the challenges they face in collecting taxes, and she assured Ugandans to continue to do their best in serving the economy. Some other committees have this to say. The Uganda Revenue Authority says Uganda Revenue Authority says revenue collected at one-stop border posts is promising, whereby at Milama Hill they collect over 3 billion and at Katuna 15 billion annually. Now, that is it for what is happening in the world of business. And well, we'll be taking a look at the Forex and how we were trading. This is as of Friday. Do note that Bank of Uganda is not yet open, so this that we're giving you is as of Friday now. When I take a look at how we were standing by Friday, and the US dollar at the opening was at when you were buying, it's at 3,739, selling at 3,749, and by midday it was at 3,740, selling at 3,750, closing at 3,742, and that is buying. If you're selling, it would be at 3,752. This gives me an idea. It looks to me like the evenings and the afternoons are the peak hours if you are interested. But then again, when you go back down to the Great Britain pound, was buying at 4,555, selling at 4,567, and the euro closing at 3,942, buying, and selling at 3,953. That is as you are closing. Now the Kenyan shillings closing at 25 shillings, and then selling at 25 shillings as well. The Tanzanian shilling closing at 1 shilling, and also selling at 1 shilling, and then that is briefly what how we are standing when it comes to Forex. That is as of Friday. And if you are interested, of course, tomorrow we'll be back to give you how we would have closed as per the end of the day. Well, let's cross over and see what is happening when it comes to our press review, and I'm going to be giving you what is happening today in Uganda. Again, the New Vision LC elections roadmap is out. You can find that in today's copy of the New Vision. Museveni's ingredients to keep Uganda independent, and then over 100 pages of independence special inside today's copy of the New Vision. President warns against politics, religion of identity in today's copy of the New Vision. But also, if you are the one that is, who finds the Daily Monitor a favorite, this is what you're going to find in today's copy of the Daily Monitor. 61 years of independence, and also Rwanda asks Uganda to arrest Chinese investor. The full story is in today's copy of the Daily Monitor. Arrested for what? You will be finding out. And also, you will be finding FDC unveils newly elected leader leaders. The full story is in today's copy of the Daily Monitor. And of course, the Lizard has something to say. Rival Group will also release another. This is in as far as the FDC camps to be talked about. Then crossing over internationally on the East African scene, still we are looking at the Daily Nation. Masagalia's big win, and that is today's copy of the Daily Nation. That is in Kenya. Also suffering amidst plenty, irony of CBK food and prices report. Then Dubai farm to get Helois Telcom stake, and a social worker to spend 35 years in jail for child theft. That and so much more in today's copy of the Daily Nation. That is in as far as keeping up with Kenya is concerned. But also crossing over to Tanzania, we get to see what is happening in the Citizen. Why more fuel pain is on the way, and you're going to be looking at tackle education woes, teachers urge the government, and in Business Week investment, Africa's mining sector set for shakeup. In today's copy of the Citizen, then East African Community budget crisis drags on, also recalling Salim and Cold War intrigues. That is in today's copy of the Citizen. That and so much more you will find. And that is it for the press review and for Good Morning Uganda Business. Olive Monica Najuma is here to give you the traffic updates wherever you are watching us from.
Well, thank you so much, Chantal, Olive, Candinda, for those updates. Now, you are Ugandan and you like to travel to the areas of Jinja. And sometimes you find yourself using places like Kayunga Road. Now, there is a new development and you may find that you're not able to cross through because according to the Uganda National Roads Authority, there is a new development. And I'll be giving you that this minute. So according to the Uganda National Roads Authority, there is a diversion of heavy traffic. I beg your pardon. Traffic diversion of heavy vehicles at Seziwa Bridge along Kalaji Kayunga Road. Uganda National Roads Authority hereby notifies all road users that major surface defects have been identified on Seziwa Bridge, necessitating changes in the current traffic flow at this section. The bridge will be limited to one lane and only accessible to lighter vehicles. Heavy vehicles are advised to use the following alternative routes to reduce pressure on the old bridge. Now, the first route is traffic from Jinja shall use Kampala-Jinja Road, that is 72 kilometers, or alternatively use the Njeru-Chisoga-Chetume Mukono Road, which is 64 kilometers. Then traffic from Kayunga heading to Kampala shall use Champisi Namataba Road, which is 41 kilometers, and it's a gravel road that branches off at Bukoloto Njeru Road at Champisi Town and joins Kampala Jinja Road at Namataba Town. Namataba Town is 32 kilometers from Kampala along Jinja Road. Now the others, it is traffic from Luwero heading to Kampala shall use Kalaji, Mukono, Namataba, Champisi, and Champisi Kayunga Road links. And of course, UNRA goes on to say that our technical teams working with the traffic police have secured the damaged section of the bridge with the installation of safety signs to guide traffic flow. Also, currently a procurement process is underway for the construction of a new bridge at this location, and this is from the management of UNRA, which regrets any inconveniences caused. Now that we have that out of the way, let's have a look at the traffic this morning from different areas. But now we will be looking at the area of Chiwatule and Intinda. We will be picking it up from the area of Chiwatule, which joins Ntinda to which join of the area of Chwatle, which joins in Tuntinda around Ecomart supermarket. And as you can see there on your screen, it looks good. There is a little bit of a build-up just around Seroma Limited on opposite Ecomart supermarket, but that is very brief. It's like a minute or so. And then as you join this intersection that comes from Nalia sloping down to Ntinda, there is smooth flow of traffic as indicated by those green lights that you see on your screen right there. Now moving on to Chwatle Road, still as you head to Ntinda, I see that there is smooth flow of traffic coming in from Chigoa Road and of course heading to Old Chira Road, and it goes on smoothly. Oh, today being Independence Day, it explains it, because usually around this section there is intense traffic around this time, especially around the Eliana Hotel and the Friend Supermarket. But now reaching Chigobe Road, that intersection, there is a bit of a traffic build-up over there as you reach the traffic lights, but still it's nothing to worry about. I think it's being caused by the traffic lights right there. Now looking at Chisasi Road, it is there is a bit of a traffic build-up there around Baba TV, but nothing to worry about still. And as you continue on Kotontinda Road, there is still smooth flow of traffic around there, so you should be able to get to where you're going. Today is the best time to give that car that you've been keeping at home a good test drive, because the roads are very clear. Now moving on to Chira Road, still there is smooth flow of traffic there. When I look at Bukoto Crescent, the road is very clear and still moving ahead around Kabira Stage traffic lights. There is a bit of traffic there, but still it is under traffic lights, so that is expected and it is not a lot. Continuing still along Chira Road, there is a smooth flow of traffic there, even as you cross through to go to Rugogo bypass or as you continue to head to town. Now going back to Lugogo bypass, let's see how it joins the main Ginger Road. There is smooth flow of traffic, a bit of hold up here and there, but nothing to worry about. And as we reach the main Kampala Ginger Highway, there is a little bit of traffic build up just where Lugogo bypass joins the section of Kampala Ginger Highway. And of course there is a bit of traffic coming through from 4th Street joining the Ginger Road Highway, still the Ginger Kampala Highway, but continuing to town, you can see that all those green lights are indicative of smooth flow of traffic. But when you reach the traffic lights, when you reach the Ginger Road roundabout, there is a bit of a hold up there before you cross through that intersection that has the road that goes to Yusufule Road and goes to Mukwano Road, but still nothing much to worry about. So it looks like the entire city looks good today. There is bits and pieces of traffic here and there, but overall there is a smooth flow of traffic. But of course the areas of Market Street, given that there is usually lots of vehicles, delivering consignments of goods, there you're going to find some bit of traffic, because when I look at the area of Market Square Road, there is red lines which indicate traffic over there. Actually on Market Street there is deep red zones there which indicate that the build up over there is kind of intense. And of course when we look at the alternative roads like Duster Street, there is a huge traffic there, and there is some build up of traffic along Loom Street. Now looking at the other roads like Siki Road, there is a build-up there, a traffic build-up over there, and then going around Entebbe Road off Ginger Road, there is some bit of traffic there, so you may be delayed a little bit. But given that most of the city looks pretty clear and most of it has green zones which indicate free-flowing traffic, you shouldn't lose so much time on the road this morning. Well, That's it for our traffic updates. Thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Uganda. We still have a lot that has been lined up for you. When we come back with GMU agenda, we will be delving into the evolution of the Anglican Church since independence. And later on, Ruben Mpima will give us the sports updates. Which team lost over the weekend? Some people were crying. We'll get more of that when Ruben comes over later. For now, thank you for watching.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Did you know that Sir Walter Fleming Coates was Uganda's final governor before independence? Sir Walter Fleming Coates was born on 30th November 1912 in Aberdeen, Scotland. He was educated at Glasgow Academy, the University of St Andrews and St John's College, Cambridge. He was a British colonial administrator and Uganda's final governor before independence from 1961 to 1962. Sir Walter Fleming Coates approved the Uganda Coat of Arms on 1st October 1962 before they were formally established by law on 9th October. He was also chosen Governor General of Uganda from 1962 to 1963 because he had a reputation within the colonial office for supporting African nationalism and African independence movements. He died on 4th November 1988.
So, you are ready to invest in Airtel's initial public offering? Good choice. I'm going to show you how to do it straight from your phone. First, you're going to want to make sure you have a Securities Central Depository SCD account. Dial star 185 star 85 hash from your Airtel number. Choose Airtel IPO purchase from the available options. Enter your valid national identification number when prompted. Before you purchase, there are a few things you need to know. The minimum purchase is 2,500 shares. The share price is 100 Uganda shillings. Select the number of shares you wish to purchase. Choose your relevant broker for the purchase. Enter your Airtel Money PIN to confirm the transaction. Congratulations! You receive a confirmation message of your successful purchase.
Previously, in most of these areas that we had prioritized, farmers would produce, but you don't access market because the roads are not there. So you have the middlemen that would have access and they persevere to go into those deep in the villages and they buy with their own prices. They'll go there and set prices for you, and yet you're the ones who are producing this food. But now this time with the market linkages, people can now access market because we have bridges that were, streams that were bottlenecks to access by the farmers. It has constructed bridges, so farmers can now reach market.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala, we have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
This week on UBC.
Did you know that George Wilberforce Kakoma composed the music and authored the lyrics of the Uganda national anthem? Kakoma was born in 1923 in what is now Wakiso district, Uganda's Mengo Town Council. He attended Mengo Primary School, King's College Bordeaux, Royal College of Music in London, University of Durham in Northern England, among other institutions. Prior to Uganda's independence, a subcommittee was formed to determine an anthem for the forthcoming state. It proceeded to hold a nationwide contest with the criteria they stipulated for the anthem being that it should be short, original, solemn, praising and looking forward to the future. In July 1962, the committee chose Kakoma's composition. It had taken him a day to compose the music and write the lyrics for O Uganda, Land of Beauty. Kakoma's composition was first played publicly by the police band conducted by Mr. Mon on October 9, 1962, during Uganda's Independence Day celebrations. He received a personal token of 2,000 Ugandan shillings from the Prime Minister, Dr. Milton Apollo Obote, for his work. Apart from the national anthem, he contributed to the composition of the East African Community Anthem in 2005 and also composed the Uganda Wildlife Authority anthem. Kakoma died on 8th April 2012 in Kampala's Kololo suburb, aged 89.
Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. Happy 61 years of Uganda since our independence. Well, we've moved. A person at 61 is really mature. And if you are to go by our age grouping, 61, now you enter the category of elder persons. 60, you retired from public service. So Uganda as a country, really the question is, are we that person worth 60 years? And now are we plus one? Which makes it today 61 years of Uganda's independence. Congratulations, Ugandans. Congratulations, Mother Uganda, for walking this far. The big question remains, how we totally independent? What more do we need to do as a country to hold firm to the vision, to the dream of our forefathers who strived to have Uganda an independent country? I'm Robert Chirabo Nyonyitono, and today I have a very interesting discussion. That is the evolution of the Anglican Church since independence. Religion has been in Uganda for some time. We may not have enough time to go back to how Christianity came in Uganda and all that, but we want to look at how has this religion, how was the Anglican faith transformed through hard and thick to today. And joining me on set, I have, and I'm humbled to have men of God with me from the Anglican Church. I have Reverend Canon Geoffrey Byarugaba, who is from the Diocese of Kampala and coordinator of mission and outreach, the provincial head of clergy, Church of Uganda. You're most welcome, Reverend Canon.
Thank you. Thank you. And good morning, viewers, and happy Independence Day. This is a wonderful time as Ugandans. Since 60 or so years, we got the right to rule or misrule ourselves.
I love what rule or misrule. And at the extreme end, I have Christopher Amos Chikomeko, who is a lay evangelist at Namirembe Diocese, that is Church of Uganda. He is a book writer or an author and a biographer. But I am also aware he is a retired accountant, certified accountant. You're most welcome to the show. Good morning.
Thank you. I'm also grateful, viewers, to be here. The Church of Uganda got independence earlier. Ours was in April 1961. So we are 1 year older than the Republic of Uganda? I think so.
Now, of course, looking at the guests I have, then no doubt we are in the right hands and have people who are well informed regarding the Anglican Church and the various transformations that have happened. I'll begin with Reverend Canon. I happen to have been in the Anglican Church, the Pentecostal movement. I was in the East African revival growing up at home with my grannies. So I got a feel of the various transformations that church has gone through. But beginning with you, when you talk about the Anglican Church since independence, briefly take us through the various outstanding events that have shaped the Anglican Church.
Thank you. The Church of Christ, I should say, is first a spiritual organism. It's both a spiritual organism but also a human organization. So we are going to be assessing it along those parameters. As a spiritual organism, it is open, or supposed to be open, to the leading of the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit is sovereign. He's actually the one who constitutes the church on the day of Pentecost. And through the life of the members, individual members, the Bible says your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit. So the individual member who is indwelt and inhabited by the Holy Spirit on a daily basis, and the working of the Holy Spirit in that individual believer is very important as we discuss the church. But also the church is organized as an organization so that the individual gifts of the church can perform, can have function affecting each other as the body is arranged with different body parts. So that metaphor of the church as a body, but the church as a living and spiritual organism is what is likely to define our conversation. And as he said, the church as an organization, the province of the Church of Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and Boga, Zaire, was an independent province, an independent entity from the Church of England, a year and a number of months earlier than the Republic of Uganda. So as an organization, probably Uganda needs to learn from us how we have walked this journey of self-propagation, self-financing, and self-governance. We've made significant mistakes along the way, but overall, Janet has been worthwhile because we have taken the mandate and the maturity to determine and to exercise freedom to make decisions, though of course decisions have consequences. Now, the shift, the name of the name shifted from Native Anglican Church. On independence, we became Church of Uganda. And we were making a statement. We are not just Anglican. That has to do with English. But we are now the church that is in Uganda. We appreciated the historical and the traditional linkage with the Church of England, but we also asserted our new identity, dressing this church in the Ugandan dress, in terms of culture, in terms of forms of worship, in terms of language, in terms of expression. These are important missiological benchmarks when the church is changing from one culture to another. Of course, some of them were carried over. They are very difficult to get rid of. That's why the church is meant to be in every tribe, every tongue, and every nation. And that has implications. But generally, overall, the Church of Uganda has experienced growth in numbers. We've experienced translations of the Bible into more native languages, and the worship expressions have also, more of them. We have the prayer book translated in more local languages, and then internally, the working of the Spirit, the East African revival, the Zukufu revival movement, then the Pentecost expression of the 70s, all of these have impacted the church in many ways. And we are going to just be scratching on the surface.
Now, this takes me to Chikomeko. Yes. When we talk about the church, evolution of the church since independence, the Anglican, to be very particular, our viewer, we look at the fact that we see the church moving away from only being focusing on spiritual nutrition, even now moving into the business aspect of it. When we look at now the church coming into projects, you know, those days we had blessed are the poor, for the kingdom of God is theirs. And it was a custom to see clergy or ababulizi, you know, on bicycles with handkerchief on the collar. Today, the church picked up, and now you'll hear very many men of God talk about wealth. Even in the Anglican, wealth, business, projects like the church house, you know, we're earning, come and rent on this and all that. Let's look at the evolution into the economic aspect.
It all began in April 1961 when Archbishop Fisher of Canterbury arrived for the inauguration of the province. On return to UK, he made a statement. He said he had been disappointed by the development of what was then the Native Anglican Church in comparison to what he saw in the Roman Catholic Church when he was around. And he went into details, how when he visited he saw projects that looked so big, and how he looked at very poor and looking structures of our church. He was really disappointed in what he saw. And I think that was a statement. It meant that whoever now started to look after the Anglican Church had to remember what Fisher said. And this was Brown. He was actually the last bishop of the Uganda diocese, and he continued as archbishop for some 5 years. And he was the man now who had to transform us into, look here, I think we have underlooked development, we have underlooked the business side of the story. So in 1966, the House of Bishops sat. And they were looking at the celebration of 100 years, which was in about 10 years' time, and they were wondering what could they do? That's how they came up with the church house project. 10 years before the centenary. Of course, the rest is history. Come 77, church house was nowhere, and I think it was only in 2018, although you are very comfortable in mentioning it as part of it. But I want to refer to the other development aspects of the church, that the opener was Archbishop Fisher. He opened our eyes. that it was not all about spiritual. We had to go into business. We had to go into other developmental projects as a church.
Now, Reverend Canon, let's look at Uganda since independence. We've had a number of regime changes, not until 1986, where we've had, one would say, a smooth sailing, fairly, much as we've had pockets of rebels here and there. How was the church sailed through, more so than meantime when Archbishop Janan Lumu go the Anglican Church and the political terrain of this country?
The Church of Uganda, or the native Anglican Church, much earlier with the Church Missionary Society, has been one way affected by the political situation at the time. Right away, the very first crop of our membership were martyred. Every 3rd of June, we commemorate them. These are youth, the very first converts into the faith. So the environment in which the church operates affects it one way or the other. In fact, this long-serving catechumen of Uganda, Apollo Kagwa, one time was in exile in Ankole, and he and his group members prayed that should they be enabled to return to their country, they would rule Uganda according to Christian principles. And God heard their prayer, I think. They came back, they took power, and we can evaluate their work as Christian disciples who were in the sphere or the space of politics and appropriation of power and resources. So the church has a role of discipling the world, all the spheres, politics, economy, culture, education. That one, it's part of the Great Commission. Go into all the world and making disciples of all nations, baptizing them and teaching them to observe all that Jesus had taught the disciples to observe up to the close of the age. So the church is in society, the church is affected by society, the church also affects society. The dilemma is, of course, who affects the other the most. Because as we see since independence, it seems the world has entered the church and is now influencing the church in many ways that are desirable. Now, politically, yes, the Church of Uganda was at the heart of independence. Our members of the church, the first president was a member of the Church of Uganda. The Prime Minister was a member of the Church of Uganda. So you can as well say this church was the custodian of the political life and leadership of Uganda in that sense. Whether it was advantageous or disadvantageous, we assess, because it is give and take. When you allow politics, as you get into society as salt and light, salt loses its nature. But in the loss of its nature, it affects society by preserving it, by sweetening it and making it more palatable. But of course, it has its own cost and toll on the church.
Now, that said, let's look at also these 61 years since independence, the spiritual challenges that the Church of Uganda has gone through. Reverend Canon just talked about the world influencing it. We've seen the coming up of the Pentecostal movement. We've seen kind of what I call them breakaways. We've seen unthought of acts sometimes being done. We've seen the world eat the church. But the good news is it has been able to survive. Let's look at some of those challenges.
The spiritual growth or evolution in the 61 years. Around 1960, the Pentecostal movement begins to grow. And by the time of Idi Amin, there is a particular strength coming from that direction. And it looks like Amin wasn't very happy with that. And he actually bans a few Pentecostal or independent church organizations. That was an advantage to the Anglican Church in a way, although it was also the Roman Catholics, the Orthodox Church, and ourselves, and of course the Islamic religion. Why was it advantageous to us is that then the rest had no alternative, those who were Protestants, but now to come to us. And we were able to grow in numbers that way, but that was only until Idi Amin left. And you know he left, I think, in '79. And in the 80s, the Pentecostals again had to slow it a bit because we had a guerrilla war here. So with wars, freedom of worship wasn't that much. Actually, people were fleeing to churches to seek refuge. And I must say that in that time of the 80s, the spiritual growth of the Christian became much deeper. People were really for God, asking for God's mercy throughout the war. The problem started after the war. 86 onwards. Liberty began, people began to enjoy freedom, and then with freedom came relaxation, and some religions, I don't want to say, began to also influence our Christians, and what you said is very correct. Migration began from the Anglican Church to those other independent churches, and even to the other traditional religions. And it was not until the 90s when we got an archbishop called Nkoyoyo that he said, you guys, the Anglican Church has to do something here. We cannot allow this influx just like this. And of course now he welcomed a few changes in our liturgy, in our way of worship, and that played the trick. We saw some kind of return to us, people coming back. When we came into the 2000s, that was Archbishop Orombi. He was even much better because for him he even made agreements with the independent churches to see how we can cooperate. Then we realized we are not enemies after all. Come the 2010s, was it Archbishop Mutagali? Again, he did not disturb that wave. And now with the current Archbishop, it's even fantastic. So what you are saying is very right. When we realized we have a problem, we confronted it straight on by adopting what was taking our flock. Can we either do the same, copy some of it? Not all of it has gone very well, but it was a strategy. We could not just sit and look at our flock going simply because they have something better than we had, although we believe ours was better, but I think it was our way of presenting it.
Indeed, your book right. And I'll look out for some of the copies, though. You brought it out very well. That was the migration and the bit of peaking. I recently told my friend I had never dreamt of an overnight in the Anglican Church. Truth be told, I had never. And on the 31st, I was at Namirembe Cathedral, that outing, and it wasn't so different from my church, which is Life Church Uganda, Namasuba. Pastor Dora and Richard, thank you so much for the good work. Sunday we're celebrating 35 years of Life Church in Uganda. Now, I felt home, away from home. And I told the person who told me, no, Robert, let's go. Exactly what is there is what you're going to find here. And it was a lovely moment, a wonderful, blessed night that we had, the preaching. It was really another piece of the puzzle being placed there. But now, let's also look at the Anglican Church in connection with other churches in the 61 years of independence. Believe you me, we first had each of these traditional religions was so much independent of its own. I want to tell you, I had never thought that we would ever see the head of the Anglican Church, the head of the Catholic Church, the presiding bishop of the born-again faith, the Orthodox, the Muslims, the Mufti of Uganda, sit. There was some kind of, not enmity to some extent, but there was boundary somewhere. Today, in the 65 years, we've seen the Interreligious Council, we've seen interreligious marriages happen gracefully. People go from this, they go for blessings and all that. And I want to bring in Reverend Cannon. This evolution, this kind of working in tandem.
Thank you. There are cultural shifts that happen which are imposed on the church from outside. I'm going to speak as a Christian leader. The Lord Jesus Christ expects the Church of Christ to operate, have some common denomination where you agree, some key grounds where you agree on the essentials. The essentials expects us agreement, to have agreement. On the non-essentials, liberty, but in all with love. And that is within the Christian fraternity, different denominations that preach Christ, that affirm the faith as to summarize in the historical creeds and articles. Those are the essentials where we need to strive for unity and agreement, because it undermines our witness in the world if we don't agree. Now, with the non-Christian faith, any agreement over the essentials, that is hypocrisy, that is pretense. For example, a Christian organization cannot say we are in bed 100% with a non-Christian organization. Yes, you can agree as citizens of Uganda, we have a shared as citizens. But when it comes to matters of faith, you are selective. You cannot work together unless you agree. So if you disagree over certain basic principles, doctrinal, religious, any semblance of unity, that is pretending. That is a pretense. And yes, but within the Christian fraternity, you forge as much as possible with those who name Christ, who are indwelt by the Holy Spirit. You forge unity. But with the outsiders, the common denominator is maybe as citizens, or you are a clansman, or you are, but you fundamentally differ over what you believe in. For example, you can't call yourself brothers because you have different parents. You can't call yourselves, you have the same destiny. No, you don't. Hey, but so much as we agree, or we should agree with those who are within the fraternity, we need to be honest how we relate with those who are outside.
Well, that was so doctrinal and philosophical, and you need the Holy Spirit to understand canon very well. But I'll leave it at that. Now, in these 60 years, Amos, let's look at the influence of money.
Okay.
And the body of Christ, more so, particularly now, the Anglican Church. This has been a big threat to the body of Christ. Now, 61 years, how has the church been able to thrive? There was someone who was telling me that today the church needs money than never before.
Correct.
And at some times the church has been criticized, that even when you look at what society, and I want to say this, sees as the corrupt, I mean in courts because they have not been convicted by a competent court, it's societal judgment. These are the ones that are given front seats, that take special recognition. You find a man of God says, join me, welcome, and recognize so and so. Then if you're building a church, they give the biggest. Over to you.
It's a little bit historical, but let's begin in 1900, when the British and the local people here agreed that they registered the land. So when the entire land was registered, the then Native Anglican Church received free 40 square miles. And they added another 12 in a few years later. So that became a total of 52 square miles. A square mile is 640 acres. That was a lot of land, and that is wealth. So that's where the church wealth and money began. We were free to sell or to lease. And when we got independence, it became tricky. Because after Brown left, the first native archbishop found himself in trouble. That much of this registered land, the 652 acres, were actually not all over Uganda. They were just here in Buganda, Central Region. And he was the Bishop of Toro, Bunyoro, and Imboga. He had been appointed to become the Archbishop of the whole of Uganda. And for example, he had nowhere to stay. So the automatic thing was that he had to stay at Namirembe, the headquarters of the province. And the people there told him that, you are the Bishop of Toro, so you can go back to Toro, and when there is a function, you can drive in, stay in a hotel, and then go back to Toro. And he was like, come on, guys, I cannot do that. I need a place here. So they told him, never, never, you won't. And so from 1966 all the way to 1970, there was an expert called, a civil servant actually, called John Bikangaga. He was given the responsibility to carry out a financial survey and administration of the Church of Uganda. He did his job. And in 1969, the report was ready. So the church was able to see its entire wealth, not only Central Region, but across the whole of Uganda. And then he came up with a report, and the best strategy was, first of all, to remove the Archbishop from Toro. He had by then got an assistant bishop there, so that he could reside in Central area, and he could have a jurisdiction over diocese. So they had to create a small diocese around the Central Region, which we now call the Diocese of Kampala. However, again, the people of that diocese, because the constitution, the Church Constitution of 61, had required the local diocese to give permission for such a creation, and the permission was not given. And actually, it took Idi Amin in 1971 to ask what was going on. But maybe before that, the day Amin took over power was a Monday, January 25th of January 1971. It was a Monday. So when he released the detainees, there was a Thanksgiving service at Namirembe the following Sunday. And the people of the Central Region tried to show the world that, hey, Idi Amin has taken over. We have a problem with our finances and administration here. So we are not going to allow the Archbishop to be part of this. And yet, the diocesan bishop had actually invited him to preach at that service. So what happened? The people of that cathedral closed it. This was on the 31st of January, 1971. It was a Sunday. They closed the cathedral. He couldn't go to the service. Idi Amin asked, what happened? But I was locked out. Then Idi Amin said, you wait a minute. I'll now come with you next Sunday. Repeat the Thanksgiving service. So the Thanksgiving service was repeated. Then Amin came. And the Archbishop actually preached. The following year, and I must say, let me use my language, this was at gunpoint. The local diocese and the province were told that you must agree at gunpoint. And the smaller diocese was created, and properties were shared out on Namirembe Hill, what belongs to the province, what belongs to the local diocese. And now that's when people relaxed and concentrated on what belonged to what and how they could grow that wealth in terms of leases to property, blah, 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 blah. So the biggest wealth of our church is actually leases. of property of this huge land that we got in 1900. And it's on those properties that we've been able to put infrastructure, like the church house, although it has taken us long. Now we have even put up another modern infrastructure, the Uganda Matters Museum at Namugongo. And it's just the beginning, it's phase 1. There will be phase 2, which will be, I don't know. But all that will be income generating. Expect things like flyovers, expect things like train tubes to take tourists to Namugongo.
Amos.
Yeah. Of course.
He's a very interesting character with very much history regarding the Anglican Church. Well, I can't believe how fast time is flying.
Yeah, the principle, of course.
Listening to all this interesting history that if you didn't know. Now, I want to come back to you, Bishop, Reverend Canon, sorry. No doubt, in the 61 years, we've had political interventions. Leave alone the matters, the Janandumu, but we want to see how politics has influenced the church. Today, I may not be shy to say, we've seen even bishops appointed, then we've seen cancelled, we've seen postponement, and as the media, we've tried to put some things showing that there is politics. This is not only about religion and God's calling, but there is a political tune somewhere within the Anglican Church. To you, Reverend Canon.
Well, very interesting. The issue of money, while the gospel is free, its propagation and conservation of the fruit costs resources. Resources in terms of space, land, resources in terms of money and men. So that is the church militant, which is the church in the world. Now, politics and the church, as I said earlier, is also a human organization. And as a human organization, it should have laws that govern the membership, systems of government, and policies. And the Church of Uganda currently is over 10 million in membership. This is a huge organization. So inevitably, the way you arrange the affairs of this church and lead, it is political in a sense. We are running an economy. Some of the African countries' population are much less than the population Archbishop Kazimba leads. So we are talking about an economy, we are talking about the government. We have institutions, we are leading schools and hospitals, income generating. We are thinking of beginning a bank and operating a bank. So really, we are talking about using systems and capacities and competencies that run huge organizations. Politics comes in inevitably. Who does what? And the selection process and policies that govern accountability structures and systems. So it is a complex situation that we have. Inevitably, carnality also comes in. The church is still here fighting the world, the devil, and the flesh. Matters of the flesh still come in. These saints are still work in progress. They are not yet there. Yes, they are progressive, but they are still sinners. Yes, so the flesh catches up with us occasionally. Selfishness and greed, all those are part and parcel of a human discipleship. But overall, overall, we hope for the best. We pray we learn from our mistakes and that we allow the work of the Spirit of God who sanctifies the church to continue sanctifying the church and making it more perfect, conforming it to the image of Christ. But we are not yet there.
We are not yet there. Well, time is out, and I must thank my guests. But before I let you go, I just want to give each one of you a minute to get your parting remarks to Ugandans. I'll begin with Chikome.
Okay, mine is very brief. That in 4 years' time from now, Church of Uganda will be 150 years. So every Anglican, wherever you are, start preparing. Begin the celebration now. So come 2027, when we clock 150, you won't say, hey, we are that old.
Thank you so much. And Reverend Canon, as you walk out.
Mine is really to appreciate the heritage as a citizen of Uganda, but also as a Christian citizen of Uganda, to appreciate the heritage I have enjoyed as a country, the beautiful land God has bequeathed us and given us, fertile, wonderful climate, and wonderful people who are open to new things, and as a church that we have been recipients and custodians of the mysteries of God, the plan of God for mankind, which he himself came and revealed through his Son. So we have a wonderful heritage that we need to embrace and receive and transmit it to the next generation, hopefully with faithfulness and diligence, that the church will not die during our time.
Well, thank you so much, Reverend Canon Geoffrey Piano Mugabe. Thank you so much for your time. And of course, very interesting, Christopher Amos Kikomeko. Thank you so much for your time. And the viewers, we celebrate 61 years. We've been looking at the evolution of the Anglican Church. One thing that we thank the Lord for is the church has been able to survive till today. It is our prayer that the Anglican Church and other faith and other religions will be able to grow and continue spiritual nourishment for this generation, because a generation that loses its step in the faithful arena is a doomed one. Ruben is ready to take you through sports. See you.
Previously, in most of these areas that we had prioritized, farmers would produce, but you don't access market because the roads are not there. So you have the middlemen that would have access